It is Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. Appreciate you joining us. It is another Mailbag edition of the show. And what we're going to do is we're going to take your questions with reaction after the Seahawks' first preseason game. They were able to get the win against the Minnesota Vikings 24-13 as the Seahawks were trailing 10-7 at halftime and really just found their mark in the second half. Drew Lock played most of this game for the Seahawks, and he was looking pretty solid. Made one pretty dumb throw, but other than that, Drew Lock did a pretty good job. Holton Ahlers was the other quarterback that played. Geno had the night off, and he looked pretty good in his own right. The run game didn't really get established, but UDFA Jake Bobo made his case of why he belongs on the 53-man roster with a very impressive night. 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Defensively, as far as that goes for this Seahawks team, Nick Mullins kind of did what he wanted for the most part, but the Seahawks did a good job of adjusting later. The run game, the Seahawks struggled. We talked about it a lot this offseason, that these Seahawks last year struggled so much with run defense, 30th ranked run defense in the league. Got up to a slow start in this one when it came to run defense, but they did a really good job of getting stops behind the line of scrimmage. And then, oddly enough, Jalen Rager, who hasn't done much in the NFL, he kind of had a good night for Minnesota with 4 catches for 55 yards. He was a problem to deal with, but the Seahawks did a really good job of adjusting in the second half to take advantage of this one and get a 24-13 win, and a lot of optimism about a lot of young players going forward. Let's answer your question, starting with Matthew here. Jake Bobo makes at least wide receiver 5. Let's go Jake Bobo. I got to tell you, pressure's on D. Eskridge now, right? We know D. Eskridge is going to be suspended the first 6 games of the season. And you, of course, have the arrest that went on this offseason as well. And the fact that he has not played good the first 2 seasons of his career. On top of that, when it comes to D. Eskridge, the injury factor and all that. Then you look over at Jake Bobo, who has been fantastic this offseason, one of the stars of OTAs and of training camp, and then has this showing tonight. That's a strong case for Jake Bobo to make this roster. And if you're the Seahawks, maybe you say, okay, D. Eskridge, the talent's there, but he hasn't been able to put it all together. But what's it to you if he can't play those first 6 games? Jake Bobo, if he's available right away, obviously, then that might be worth the decision right there of saying, you know what, let's go ahead and move forward with Jake Bobo there. So Jake Bobo made his case. I think at the very least he's on the practice squad. When the season begins, he'll be around one way or the other. But tonight, he may have made his case to be on that 53-man roster. Beta YT, the star super chatter of the night, had this to say. Who will be the most standout rookie? A lot of options, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba, from what we saw from him on Thursday night, Smith-Njigba looked really good. 3 catches, 25 yards. 4 targets, long of 15 yards. Even though it was just a few catches, I mean, it was obvious the talent level that he brought to the table and what he brings to this Seahawks team. To me, I think he's going to be fantastic. And I know that the unofficial depth chart that was released before the game had him as the number 4 receiver, but he's going to quickly work his way up to the upper echelon as far as I'm concerned. Watch out. JSN is going to be spectacular. So fill in the blank for me. The Seahawks MVP versus the Vikings was blank. Number of options you could go with for this selection here. Give me one name who the MVP was for the Seahawks against the Vikings, and let us know in the comments section who that player was. Fill in the blank and let me know who you think that guy was in the comment section. It's our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Let me know who that MVP was. Troy writes in, what do you think of Zach Charbonnet's first game? I don't think we got enough of him. Charbonnet finished with 4 carries, 14 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. And then we also saw him in the receiving game, 2 catches for 14 yards as well. And, you know, he didn't have a ton of touches, obviously. But I'll say this, when it comes to Zach Charbonnet, coming off the injury, the shoulder injury, you didn't want to overwork him too much. And so I was okay with his workload being limited to that extent. To me, that was fine to see him kind of held back of some sorts there as far as that goes. So The main thing I took away was I liked what he did in the receiving game in that backfield to get those catches, to be available and useful in that sense. To me, that meant a lot. I liked that. I thought that was a big sticking point for him going forward, was his impact in the receiving game. The more you can be available as a receiver, the more they can put him out on the field, even if it is with Kenneth Walker there as far as that goes. Domingo writes in with a $10 super chat. Do you think Bobby Wagner will make an impact that the defense needs? Yeah, absolutely I do. You look at what Bobby did last year with the Los Angeles Rams, and even in a new scheme, new team, new city, all of that, Bobby was still one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And one of the narratives that I've had to try to destroy of some sorts is a comeback story that Bobby is looking to bounce back of some sorts joining the Seattle Seahawks. And that's just simply not true. It's not the case. Bobby's coming off an outstanding season with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams didn't have a whole lot to write home about last season, but Bobby Wagner was one of their few bright spots last year. And I think you're going to see Bobby Wagner be exactly what this Seahawks team needs. Not just on the field, but off the field as well, being that leader, being that presence that he brings to the table. Bobby Wagner is going to be terrific and going to have a fantastic year. I'm excited to see what he does this year. One word to describe Seattle's offense against the Vikings. What would that one word be? My one word would be wow. We saw the wow plays. When they needed to do something, they did something. That would be my one word, would be wow. They did what they needed to do. Give me one word to describe Seattle's offense in the comments section. Folks, we had a great time on our watch party on Thursday night. We're going to be live for every game throughout the season. And we still do our live shows as well on Wednesdays, our news and rumors segments each and every day. If you're a diehard Seahawks fan, this is the channel for you. Subscribe now for free for the latest happenings on your Seattle Seahawks. We got you covered each and every day on Seahawks Today. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. If there's breaking news, we're going to bring you a video as quickly as we can here on the channel. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Brady writes, cut down predictions from this game alone. Very good question as far as cut down predictions go. I look at, for the Seahawks, as far as cut downs go, the D. Eskridge thing is going to be interesting with how well Jake Bobo played. And Matt Landers was also solid as well. He had that touchdown grab, the 30-yard reception. So it's very competitive in that receiving room as far as that goes. One name to watch that was kind of a bubble candidate of some sorts that I think played really well, that cemented his spot on the roster, Jarek Reed, who the Seahawks selected in the 6th round out of New Mexico. I leaned towards that he was going to make the roster as is going into tonight, and he really made his presence known with what he was able to do with the 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass breakup. He was really solid. So watch out there as far as that goes. Beta writes, hashtag Seahawks, what's your concern about the injuries we've had, especially with the running back position? Beta, it's a very fair question when you talk about the injuries that the Seahawks have faced. My concern would be pretty decent. I'm not going to be dramatic and over the top, but it would be a concern. I think that's fair to say when you're talking about your top running back, Kenneth Walker III. Zach Charbonnet with a shoulder injury. You know, he did come back, but you wonder if shoulder issues can linger on. Kenny McIntosh, DJ Dallas, all these guys have been banged up in one way or another. And history tells us when it comes to the Seahawks that they deal with these things, that they kind of get banged up more than others do at times at the running back position, that they wear out their running backs. And so I really hope that Pete and Shane Waldron and company don't overwork these guys too much, where we're seeing them go 3rd and 4th to the depth chart, that they have guys that they can depend on. You know, I'll put it this way. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet don't necessarily have to be healthy at the same time, but one of them's got to be healthy at least as far as that goes. So, yeah, I'm concerned to an extent. Last question. This is from J. Boy, Perp 420. I like what I saw all around today. What would you rate the game scale of 1 to 10? Because the second-team offense took a bit because they didn't necessarily play their best. The second-team offense and defense, and the defense kind of got worked in the run game. I would grade this, I think it's fair to say, I mean, you win by double digits. I would give this an 8. And if we didn't see the slow start, it could have been a higher grade. You go to that second half, I mean, you're talking about third string and UDFA guys playing against each other, essentially, right? I mean, there was a lot of guys tonight on both sides that in crunch time, whatever, are not going to be guys that either one of these teams keep. So keeping that into perspective, I'd give it about an 8. Solid performance, but it still could have been better of what we saw early on. Rate the Seahawks defense against the Vikings, 0 through 100. What number would you give the Seahawks defensive effort against Seattle? Got a lot better in that second half. It certainly did. Rate it for me in the comment section. Let me know what your rating would be. Hit me up on Twitter. More Seahawks coverage continues there at Tyler Jones Live. You can find me there. I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.